It was a fantastic week. It looks like we've got a good crowd. Maybe we can at least get started on the agenda.
Yeah, what, a dozen people so far, so yeah. The agenda, I posted just kind of bulleted highlights of the agenda in the announcements channel on Slack. So everybody knew what to expect. And I'll keep doing that so y'all know what we're gonna be talking about. And then today I'm gonna go over some kind of upcoming events, some updates on what's going on with the community, some logistics about how to get you all the information you want. And then we're gonna talk about package repositories, the triage process, the point release, and definitely wanna leave some time for just kind of open follow-up, open conversation about anything that's on your all's mind. Because that's kind of how we move forward and how we get better is if everybody gives their feedback and their suggestions. So with that, thank you to everybody who joined us last week. I'm excited to see every week we have more people coming into this meeting, and every week we have new voices and community voices piping up, and that's what we'd like to see more of going forward. Is everybody has a voice, everybody should feel empowered to speak, so definitely, and if you're not comfortable speaking it vocally, DM me, DM Mo, put something in the chat, but definitely want to hear all of your feedback. I've been following the comments on the announcements thread as well, and we'll be discussing some of those items today. We covered some last week, and throughout the week we have ongoing discussions. I know last week we said we were going to do a discussion about the move to GitLab, but Tom was not available today, so that'll be coming up sometime in the next couple weeks once Tom is available to do that. And then there's been a couple requests for videos, both from the work groups and from these open hour meetings. The goal is to have videos uploaded the Monday following an open hour or a work group meeting. I'll be doing that. Well, Sage and I will be splitting that responsibility going forward. Those videos will be up on YouTube. So if you miss the meeting or you're in a time zone that it doesn't work, that gives you a chance to find out what's going on. I know when I came on, one of my kind of goals and early commitments was to start revamping the meetups, and that is in progress. We last night had a meetup in LA. There were 18 people there. It was really successful. We are going to have another meetup in Denver on March 2nd. That was just announced on meetup.com, the Denver SaltStack meetup. And then moving forward, we're going to be trying to have meetups align with other events that are happening in everybody's regions. Just for support purposes, it's easier to support a meetup if somebody is already in that town. And if anybody is in a city that doesn't have meetups or has an inactive meetup community, please let me know. We can work together to get maybe not a monthly meetup, but maybe a quarterly or a few times a year meetups going on to start. And then in Slack, I did create a meetups channel as well. I'll be posting meetup announcements there. And that would be a good place for people to suggest meetup topics, meetup speakers. We can help organize and coordinate. There's a lot of logistics that go into a meetup. So there's obviously, we need a place to meet, we need food, we need a topic, we need a speaker. It has to be posted and publicized. And so I want to be able to work with everybody as we get meetups up and running. Other upcoming events, the second documentation work group is at 2 p.m. Eastern today. And then SaltConf EU is coming up in early June. The CFP for that is open. And we're still looking for a handful of talks from the community. And then there've been requests as well to update the community.saltstack.com website. That is going to be getting updated here in the next few weeks, and it'll be an ongoing project, but over time that'll become a landing page for your events, for blog posts, links to the documentation, to our social network, our projects, kind of one place where you can see everything. And just this week I've worked through getting some admin access and some training on that website. So that will be getting updated. And then the final thing is, I know Mo had announced this last week, but everybody who comes to the open hours, we are entering you into a raffle for a free ticket to either SaltConf US or SaltConf EU. So just kind of a way to say thank you for attending. And did I miss any other housekeeping or event items? Anybody else, did anybody have any super awesome speaking engagements or anything in the past
Oh, I don't have anything that fun, but I did think of something I wanted to, a housekeeping item. We've invited a lot of the working group members to our GitHub org and want to use that team and that @team for communication. And we are trying to roll out to have two-factor authentication across our org. And so I'm reaching out to people. So if you don't have that in place, we would like to have that in place. You can put that on a mobile. That can also be on a desktop. If you're running Linux, there are a few apps for that. And so I just want to make that more widely known that that's something that I'll be working on. So if you hear from me, or if you don't hear from me and your access has been removed and you need it back, please contact us. That I'm not removing anybody right now, but we'll be contacting people. So would love to hear from you if you have questions.
And we will make it a point to give you time to get that turned on. It's not like we're going to shut off everybody's access tomorrow, but we do just, for security purposes, we need to have two-factor authentication turned on.
Yeah, we want you guys to be a part of the org, so.
Exactly. All right, well, that's all done. Let's follow up on the announcement from yesterday about the pin to major Symlinks and the repository for 3000. And run with that.
So the after much discussion in the community release channels, we relented and put back the pin to latest, pin to major, pin to minor releases that had previously existed prior to Neon getting released. There is now Symlinks for 3000, which is the version number for Neon, so that you can pin to that major release, and then when 3000.1 comes out, you will automatically get that when it becomes official without having to change anything. The install repo RPMs for Red Hat and Amazon that we had for like major branches before, like 2018.3, 2019.2, there are now Symlinks, install repo RPMs for the major version 2019, major version 3000, so that it should operate just as it did prior to Neon ever getting released, but now with 3000. Responded to community requests, and everything should be live as of 9:30 this morning. So I'm looking at the website right now for CentOS 8 and pin to major release, and everything is right there. So if there's any issues with that, please let me know, David Murphy at SaltStack, and we'll try to take care of your requests or errors that are found.
That was live this morning at 9:30 a.m. Mountain US time.
Yeah, Mountain, sorry, yes, forgot the time
No
zone.
problem.
Yeah, time zones, those are fun.
Fun. We could start announcing it in
Zulu time.
I know.
Hey, Greenwich Mean Time, my hometown.
Are there any questions about what David just announced, or follow-up thoughts, feedback, conversation? Okay. In that case, I think it was Megan is going to talk through the triage process. Was that you, Megan?
Yeah.
We want to kind of give you a walkthrough of the triage process, guidance of what y'all should do with GitHub issues, and kind of expectations for community and core team. This is something that's been talked about quite a bit. So we wanted to clarify what that triage process looks like currently before we start making any changes to it.
Yeah, so the current process is right now it's on a weekly rotational basis on who's assigned to triaging the issues that are incoming. And when that person is then assigned, what they'll do is they'll look at each of those issues for that week that come in daily. And so kind of, I'll just go through kind of the thought process there. First, check to make sure all the information that you would need is actually on the issue. You know, if there's not a salt version or a configuration that you need to completely triage the issue, you would ask for that information. And then if all the information is there, then I would tend to check to see if there's a duplicate, just to make sure that we're not creating multiple issues for the same issue. And then kind of just analyze the issue and check to see whether it's a feature or a bug, and then apply all the appropriate labels. There's a label documentation that clarifies all the different labels that are applied to an issue. That documentation is not up to date. There's some labels on there that we do not use. And there's also new labels coming in from the SALT enhancement proposal up right now that refers to using different severity levels that will need to be updated in the docs. And I'm currently working on updating both the label docs and actually adding this triage process to documentation. And we can update it if we do decide to change the process. So once you apply all the correct labels, one additional step is to kind of determine, is this going to, should this be blocking a release? Is it critical enough? If it is, then the release label needs to be applied to it. And I think that's about it in terms of the actual triage process. Like I said, I'm going to be documenting it with a bit more detail. So you can see that pull request. I hope to get it done by the meeting next Thursday at least. So that's all I have. Anybody have questions?
I do, Megan.
Yep.
You have to go in and try to replicate them?
Oh, yes.
You assign
Totally forgot that step. Yep. If it's a bug, you need to replicate it. Thank you.
Okay.
If you can. There are instances where we can't replicate it. Like I don't have access to some cloud or things like that. So I tend to look through the code and try to see if it's obvious. Sometimes I won't replicate a bug if it's actually super obvious what the actual fix would even be, and you can write up a test for it. So that's kind of my thought process there. And I know some of this conversation stemmed from seeing inconsistent labels on some of the issues, and we're going to address that by updating the documentation, and then add some for all the people doing triage. We'll be doing a training internally with the labels that are on the documentation, so that we're all on the same page, so we don't run into those issues.
Is there some criteria that makes it a blocking issue, a release blocker?
Yeah, right now it's critical. So if you look at the label documentation, I don't know the exact, I'd have to pull up the label documentation, but it's pretty much things like salt won't even start, things like that. We need to define that. I think we need to define that a bit more in terms, because sometimes high severities become a release blocker as well. So that's one thing I hope to define a little bit better. Any other questions? Cool.
Yeah, and just maybe a comment. We realize that this process, like any process, needs to be iterated on, and we're open to feedback. And we know we have some holes here, and we want to look at that, and we will. And I have it on my agenda to make sure that the team really looks at this. Megan and I discuss about every other day, if not every other minute, when I have questions or when things come up that I'm like, well, what about this? And so we know that we want to iterate on this and continue to grow and make it better and more visible. Thanks, Megan. Does anybody else have comments? Thanks, Shane, for your questions. What is next? Did we lose Cassandra?
Yeah, she said her internet cut out briefly.
Oh, whoops.
So she's restarting everything, rejoining.
Poor Sandra. So let me go back to the announcements channel so I know where we are. Overview of the Triage Process, community feedback, follow-ups, and open conversation is what we've got as next.
Yeah, I think I'm just looking at it, Sage. The next topic we have actually is to talk about 3000.1.
Okay.
So we can jump right into that.
Yeah. So looking at 3001 point release, we have a short list of tickets and PRs that we are considering and or planning. And I have opened up a project board in GitHub that's available to the community to see that. I just did that, so I'm not complete with it. I also made a label for those tickets, and I'm going through that now. You will see a column of considering, and then a column of planning, commits, in progress, and then done. And we will work through that list today and through the 24th to get those from considering and into commit, and make that very visible. I can go over what some of those are if that is helpful. Let me pull up my list.
Yeah, I think actually that would be helpful for the team. And I think we can also cover the timelines for 3000.1 and so on. I think that was one of the items. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the asks from last week. So these are in no particular order, and they will be out on that project board. Most of them are, and they are LGPO module doesn't handle Dell and Dell valves properly, and that is 56062. Then in master, tracebacks and ESXi grain module on import. Update the dependencies PR. MindGet returns different dictionary format in version 3000. Release notes for version 3000 do not mention changes in the SLS path variable. Salt minion broken after upgrade to 3000. That one's actually a port to master, and I have both of those in there. So it's two different ticket numbers. MySQL state and module broken after upgrade to 3000, and MySQL states fail because conv is that instead of none. Gareth is working on both of those. Those are related. Salt version 3000 crashes with unless clause if pip is missing. Only if requisites trigger stack trace if Python 3 pip is missing on Salt 3000. Salt bootstrap failed to install Salt 3000 stable. That is the bootstrap ticket. Salt 3000 having reload on service.running makes state fail. Fix regression in service states with reload argument. Version 3000 is missing in a release branch on the apt repo. Salt masters re-rendering pillar data in various state modules. Create a how-to doc on porting Salt Pack to other OS platforms. Fixed a scheduler for use of when and splay. Lack of FQDN on host block Saltmaster startup. That's our current shortlist. And those will be out on GitHub in the project that is 3000.1 release. And they will be labeled appropriately. You'll see that just a little bit after this meeting today. Any questions, concerns, comments? Mo, did you want me to share the slide, or are you going to show that slide? Go right ahead. Perfect. So looking at Salt 3000 and the dates, and to give you guys a visual, we are going to finalize that fixed list by the 24th of February, and then have those fixes done by March 9th, packaging done by the 12th, testing of that on the 15th, and then go live on the 17th, St. Patty's Day. What about the SLS path logic change from Curl? Yes. Specifically about that ticket that we're considering for the point release. I do have that on the list. Is there something else about that ticket you want to bring up, or?
Was it a bug or a feature?
Oh, I'll go back and look at it. I think it's a bug. I think that it's actually something that we wanted to look at reverting, or at least.
I think they are asking if we're expecting to have it fixed or not. I
Oh.
don't know who that's assigned to.
It's actually assigned to you and Tyler, and
Okay.
that one we're
I would expect to have it fixed.
So Carl, what the team is going through at the moment is looking at all of this list, and on the 24th, we'll publish the final ones as on the slide that will make it into 3000.1. And DWAS, I think, is already looking at this or so on. So the expectation is this one might be one that will make it.
So these dates are subject to change. These are the dates we're going to try to hit. And we do have some text down there to talk about what that means exactly. And then as we look forward and we look at sodium, we give you a few more dates here for the feature merge freeze on May 6th. And then it is 6 days later for an RC. There is a weekend between those dates. So it's not a full 6 business days, but looking to make that happen right away so we can hit that release schedule of 16 weeks that we've been trying to hit. So any questions about these dates? And any more questions about what is on the list for the point release?
Yeah, Sage, I just got a DM question in here, and I can post it. It was, well, can we reshare back again the link to the board for folks to see it?
That's a fantastic idea. Let me grab that.
And maybe we can also even put it into this this particular PDF, so folks who refer to it can also click and see the board automatically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for Brian for raising that question.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Where's this PDF going to be?
That's a good question. Do we want to post this in the Slack channels or?
Yeah, I think we're gonna post it as part of the announcement slide when we put the video up, and we will link to it. Shane, so we'll put it in there, and then there's also requests from various community members that we mirror what we have in here into the SALT forums. So we will also do that. Make sure that we post it into the SALT forums.
Fantastic idea.
So I guess if I'm a community member, 24th, I'll get to know what the final list is. By the 9th of March, if I'm a community member and I have a PR and it passes the test and I want to get it into 3000.1, then that's the deadline, which is March 9th. And obviously the core team and everybody are working on the high priority issues that Sage that you went through. And those are the ones that we view as, you know, they really need to get released soonest because they are significant regressions or have a critical impact on the way the platform works. So we will obviously prioritize those and get those soonest. And if we get ahead of the schedule for some reason, we're able to get things done faster, then obviously we'll keep folks posted on the dates. But, you know, mark your calendar, the 17th it is. And that's the objective is to try and get it up there. Any questions? Carl, Christian, Cody, any other team members?
Yeah, thanks for the questions so far. It's great. Love to hear more. Shane, who looks like he's in a very long, skinny room. What we often call the garage. Cody Crawford, are you in Texas?
Yes, I am at the moment.
Fantastic place. Let's see. Do we need to ping about open PRs, or will they be held for 3001? Some have been open for 6 months or so.
Do you have passing tests?
Say that again, D-Wise.
Do they have passing tests, the ones that are open for 6 months or so?
So he
Yep.
said yes.
We'll take a look at those. I know there's a few that I've been watching. So Christian, if you've opened those, I can go and look for those specifically, or if you have them, you can tag me in them or whatever, and I'll go see what's there. It basically seems we may need to do a full review. Okay, I'll go take a look. Yeah, good question. Anybody else?
Yeah, sorry, I want to clarify this. So there is a lot of open PRs, and probably a lot of open PRs have passing task, but it doesn't mean what any of these PRs would be considered for point release, right? Or we're talking about not point release, sorry. Oh, right, yeah, I thought it's like point release.
Yeah. Reports, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think this is why we shared in that PDF the timeline for when we will sort of do the cutoffs for sodium. And essentially whatever has passing tests, etc., will get loaded into the train for sodium, and it makes it into that, Carl. So that's a good question. Yeah, for 3000.1, frankly speaking, just looking at the bucket of all the things that we have that are, high severity and so on, that's where we're going to focus the energy. And we actually ask anybody in the community who can jump in and help and so on, please feel free to engage with us on those. Let's put priority on the things that are high impacting versus the others.
Yeah, and if you feel like you have something that's not getting reviewed or something we need to look at for that point release, I hope that you're reaching out to us and letting us know. I even changed my name here so that it's Sage the Rage, which is the same as on GitHub, that it's on all the Slacks. You can reach me at an @ there. Please know that I don't always get those in a timely manner, but I try to follow up on those as best I can. And I definitely want to hear from you guys. If you're not feeling like you're heard, please let us know.
Oh, this is a time to do a public announcement. Just remind me. Actually, it was a comment and a question on the DM. So on the question of passing tests and so on, a reminder, team, that and whoever is listening to our community call today, and we'll repost this. So Cassandra, let's take an action, please. If somebody needs help with how to actually write those tests, or what the best practices are, or you're not certain about certain parts of the code base or the change you're making, please feel free to just reach out to Sage, to Cassandra, myself, or any one of the core team members. We actually do hold mentoring sessions behind the scenes. We haven't sort of formalized them. We've done them a little bit more on a one-to-one basis. So reach out, and we'll be more than happy to engage with you and help you through that particular process. So yeah, thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, we thought about taking one of the weeks and doing maybe a test clinic. We tend to have enough agenda items that I don't know if we can dedicate a whole hour to it, but I'd love to. And maybe we need to set that up separately. I'm not sure. We should probably look at that.
I also don't see, if it's something that is that big of an issue, I don't see a problem with making it the only item for an open hour. And just kind of triage whatever else might come up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, Cassandra, let's put it on our list. Wayne, I think there's a question about the black PR, and do we know when that will drop?
The plan still is to do that as the first merge for sodium. And yeah, to Christian's point there, it will require attention from all PR authors.
But I think your question, Christian, is more is also around sort of freeze dates that are around the point release. Do I have that right? Prior to starting?
Well, he wants to know when it will drop, when that PR is going to be merged.
I don't know that we have a specific date yet, but we'll definitely make sure to announce that when we do.
Yeah. And I think, Wayne, to your comment as well, is given the attention it will need from essentially all PR authors, it probably will be a good idea that we keep people posted on this one. So maybe as we go through week to week on our progress and we have indicators, we can do that and then determine what the right sort of engagement activity we want to do before we drop it. Yeah, I think that's really, Cassandra, another one for us, because it will be, as Christian correctly points out, something that will be of broad interest.
Yes.
On the Black PR, indeed.
Okay, Wayne, can you follow up with me on that then after this call?
Yeah, for sure.
Like a black conf.
Yeah. and then there is, moving on from the next one, which is Black PR, another one that is of huge interest to everybody is PyTest. So Pedro, I don't know if you want to comment on that one as well. You've been making a lot of progress. So just give an update to the team as to where we're at with PyTest and then any indications.
Yeah, so the idea from us, the core team, is to try and get Black in first, because that will change a lot. And for every pull request that is merged, we have to re-Black Salt, and that causes a ton of conflicts. But we have on the queue to get merged 3 pull requests regarding PyTest. The first one is switching to PyTest. Sorry. The second one switches to plain asserts, because PyTest knows what to do with plain asserts, and we don't need the unit test self.assert something. And the third one is an example of how to an example and some changes to unit tests, and how we can unit test the modules using PyTest. And this is only what's going into the master branch. That I have been making some progress outside of those pull requests, because one of the biggest requests that we get is that people want to be able to test their custom modules outside of the Salt code base. And the decision to move to PyTest was one of those, was because of those kind of requests, and PyTest will simplify. However, on this first iteration, we are just switching, and we are not facilitating that just yet. But behind the scenes, I'm working on other code that will actually facilitate that, testing whatever is related to Salt outside of the Salt code base. So this is more or less the progress. We are, of course, excited to get this in, and the sooner we can, we will, for sure.
He asked about functional tests in there too. Is that in the roadmap?
Functional, so it's in the roadmap. It's not in a pull request to be merged into master. While working on PyTest, I did make some progress to see how far we could get with regards to functional testing. And I actually have that in one of my branches. We will be switching to functional testing because of the way the Salt loader does its magic for example, for states, it's a little harder, and it's even harder for returners and other types of loaders, but it's actually pretty simple for modules. That work is on standby. It's not going to be merged on the first iteration, but it will definitely be included in the future in the Salt code base. We want to move away as much as possible from integration testing, trying to make that on a need basis when we actually need to run against a real service. And even functional testing permits that to some extent. So we would only be we will be trying to make less integration tests because those take way much longer, and as time permits, switch to functional testing. And this might include rewriting some of the integration tests. But again, sorry, it will not land on the first iteration of PyTest.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you for that. I think Christian had another one, which is a suggestion that 55914 make it in early in Sodium. Yeah, that makes sense, Christian. I think I do not recall who's had that one, but that's part of the discussion that we've been going through as well. So that makes sense. These are great questions. Thank you. So actually, there was a DM question in here, Pedro, which I think you've kind of answered. But again, Cassandra, we can, in the follow-up notes, make sure that we explicitly lay that out. The comment, I should say, is, Pedro, that was helpful. Can we write it down? So if we can just lay down what we just covered around some of the sequence of dependencies of covering black, etc., I think that might be a useful thing to get rest of folks to chime in on as well.
Okay. I made a few notes on that, Pedro. Can you follow up with me after as well, please?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. All right, any other questions? So we covered the point release pieces. We'll share the materials. Hopefully everybody will find that very helpful, because we're trying to, again, share or start. This is the beginning of the process of sharing, where all the milestones are, the building blocks towards getting a 3000.1 and then the 3001 Sodium release and so on and so forth. So that will come out. Any questions or comments after for folks who are hearing this office hour recording afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us. I think we covered the Symlinks for those who joined late, and David Murphy covered that, so that should be live by now. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we covered all of the events and the triage process, which were the key agenda items that we had. GitLab is coming up next week, Cassandra, if I'm not mistaken, as you said earlier, right?
I believe so. I'm just waiting for Tom to confirm that.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's good. So we're just open now to any comments or questions, team, or any highlights anybody wants to share. My highlight is thank you everybody who constantly is just contributing some thoughts and ideas and so on that we've seen. I mean, that's exactly how we react well to that. Megan, I think there was one that you've heard on some suggestion, I guess, related to trying to change access, potential SEP upcoming. Don't know if you want to highlight that for folks.
Yeah, there's been some communication. I've actually seen it in an issue and on the community Slack about, and on Twitter about changing the default user from root to like a different user, so by default Salt doesn't run as root. I did ask a community member to open up that SEP. I believe he's working on it right now. So, you know, just watch out for that so that we can start having discussion on that in a formalized way on that SEP. So yeah, that's it.
Hey, Megan, are we talking about the master?
Yes. I believe that the reference was also to running the minion as well.
The reason why we don't run the minion as non-root is because the vast majority of the things that the minion does requires root access. And there is a way to run it as non-root, but it requires a sudo user today. So a little background there. But as far as the master goes, I think it's something that has come up several times in the past. It just hasn't been made a priority.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And you mentioned Twitter, Megan, which was, you know, if you want to get a lot of excitement, you make your way to Twitter. There's a lot of fun activities that go on there on any topic of your choice. And Salt is, of course, no exception there. So we recently had a wonderful, you know, comment raised by somebody that says, hey, what's up, Salt? Why are you guys just sticking with PyCrypto? And when are you going to modernize and so on? I think Pedro made some comments on that one. But Diwas, probably you want to give an update as to where we stand with PyCrypto and the changes we're trying to do there.
We will be working to get it to be PyCrypto Dome X as soon as possible. That change actually was made recently, and then we had to revert it due to some packaging conflicts on older OSs. But that is something we're working towards. And ideally, we would also like to do a Python cryptography crypto backend. Again, this is something that we've been discussing quite a bit. It's come up several times in the past, and it's all just about, you know, which priorities and when. We have a lot of things on the table for Sodium. So unless a community member steps up and wants to make that work happen, then I doubt it would be in Sodium, but we're definitely aware of those issues and working on them.
Yep, that's great. And Pedro,
actually, if I could just add.
Yes, please, go ahead. Yep.
With the move to Sodium, and if we're dropping Python 2 support in Sodium, then we can move to more modern cryptography, because the older platforms are things like Debian 8, for example, that we still have to support. And we're not supporting that with Python 3, which we will be in Sodium. And so therefore, we can move to more modern. In, for example, Python 3, Red Hat 7 and 8, we're actually using M2 crypto in our packaged software.
Yeah, that's a good point there, David. And actually, that went to the heart of the exchange that Pedro was having on Twitter, you know, with some of the users.
Yeah, and I mean, frankly, this is something that came up as recently as last week in one of our core team meetings. So it's not something that we don't think about. We are definitely concerned about it and working towards resolving those issues.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Cassandra, I don't know if you've spotted any more or have any more.
I don't see anything anywhere. And my DMs are in the chat that we missed. I do like that everybody keeps speaking up and asks questions, that we're having these conversations. And thank you all for that. I think it makes our community better. It makes our products better. So keep this up.
Yeah, another one actually just came in on the chat. So David Murphy, this one is for you, and probably will actually ask CR to join in as well. If we want to have a party around the topic, which is the single packaging, you know, through SaltBin or pop build. So that's a good one. We've actually been working with a few of the community members independently on that. Christian. So we will we'll give an update on it. In fact, I think we're also trying to package a little bit of learning module on the topic. So for folks who want to just get a little bit deeper, we can make that available once we've recorded it as well.
Yeah, at the moment I'm using SaltBin to package up a native minion that will operate on Arista's switches and routers. It's a self-contained binary building using Python installer with Python 3.7.5, and we came across an interesting problem in that the switches and routers are essentially all the locale information is stripped out, and their default to C, which is US ASCII, are POSIX. And so since we're Python 3, UTF-8 is we're running into issues with UTF-8 decoding, encoding, and stuff. And I just this week fixed an issue so that we can actually operate. There's Python PEP 538 and 540, which address this issue because not only are switches and routers, but a lot of containers default to C. And so the solution there was that the PEPs have is that if you're using Cython, POSIX, and Python UTF-8 equal 1, basically enabled, Python will actually, when it's using Cython there, will internally take care of the UTF-8 decode and encode, and that solves a problem that we were seeing with the switches and routers. So it's undergoing testing as we speak. I'm sure there's some other issues we'll run into, but it's basically, hurdle comes up, you get over it to the next hurdle. But so far, it's been working quite well. We still have to look at performance issues. But pop build, which is used to build SaltBin, recently it moved to GitLab, but I'll let Tom talk all about that. And SaltBin itself is on GitHub, and they're both openly available. You can go take a look at them yourselves. I have my stuff in branches at the moment because I haven't submitted the PRs back to the mainstream yet. I'll probably do that next week after I've done a little bit more testing. That's my comments on it.
Yeah, that's great. So I guess let's line up the discussion to go deeper into it and show it to folks and so on, and get everybody hopefully engaged in helping us with it. Thank you, David. Anything else, Cassandra? We had...
No, for those interested in documentation, that work group starts in 10 minutes. So join us over there.
All right, sounds good. All right, so no more questions came in. All righty, so I guess this is time to wrap up. Shane, thank you very much for giving us a view of the HQ and the offices, as always. Folks who gave updates, thank you so much. And those who raised the questions and the comments, I think, that's really what makes this call very valuable. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciated everybody's input. Folks on the call, you bring a lot of great perspective, but also please understand that everything that you're helping us with in terms of addressing questions or raising points or so on really helps not just the team here, but also the broader community. So thank you for that. And I think, Cassandra, we're going to be sharing a replay, the PDF, notes from this meeting, and also the agenda for next week, which already looks like to have some exciting topics ready for it.
Yeah, it looks like Christian just said we missed something. And I'm not sure how you pronounce that, point above.
Oh yes, yeah, he did raise that. Sorry,
okay.
I see it now.
If we have time to cover that now, we can do that. If not, we'll put it at the beginning next week.
Sorry, Christian, I missed it on the chat. I do see it now. Yeah, we can cover that one for next week. That's a good topic to talk about, the formulas and the integration. Okay. I think, Pedro, you are engaged with Mai on it. So yeah, we'll cover that one next week. Christian, thank you for bringing that one. Good point there.
Yes, thanks for bringing that back up. If we don't hear you, there's no problem with giving us a nudge and being like, hey, did you see that thing? Did you see that request? Because like you all, we are all bombarded with messages and inboxes and things all day. So definitely don't hesitate to follow up.
All right. Thank you so much, team. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.